got you, didn't I, you little sucker?
Evil Dead is awesome. All three of the original trilogy are something to behold, or should I say standalone first movie and weird second movie that's also a first movie? Like, it's a second movie named Evil Dead 2, but it's really just the first of two movies? I don't know what I'm saying. For those of you unaware, the Evil Dead film plots are all centered around a book called the Necronomicon, also known as the Book of the Dead.
Legend has it that it was written by the Dark Ones. Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Roughly translated, Book of the Dead.
This book acted as a temptation, whose punishment for reading it was awakening an ancient evil to possess everyone you love. And every single person who came in contact with this suddenly acted as though they had swallowed a whole jar of dum-dum pills, because after being explicitly told not to read the words of the book, they start reciting them like it's the 8th Harry Potter book where J.K. Rowling finally decided to ship Harry and Draco. Much like the apple with Adam and Eve, the Necronomicon is known to bring nothing but ruin for those who interact with it. But unlike the apple from Adam and Eve, it is not a metaphor for women somehow ruining the universe because they wanted a delicious snack. And in that regard, Evil Dead is feminist as fuck.
I will feast on your soul. Feast on this motherfucker!
In my younger years, when I thought this was a good look, I was obsessed with Evil Dead. I thought Ash was the best character in the world because of his one-liners, his charm, and just how damn cool he was. And I loved the mythos surrounding the Book of the Dead. Where did it come from? I know Sam Raimi made the first film as a student movie with no budget, but the idea of the Necronomicon had to come from somewhere in the world. And then I took an art history class and found out about this. This is the Last Judgment of Hunefer, taken from his tomb, and it is an example of what an ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead might look like. This was used not in a way to possess your family to turn into bloodthirsty killers, but for rather, well, a sort of more comforting reason. This Book of the Dead actually was used as a series of instructions on how to navigate the afterlife. And before you go a little crazy in the comment section or wherever it is that you watch this, perhaps yelling at your own television or iPhone, I do know that the Necronomicon is based on a Lovecraftian mythos, but he had to get that idea from somewhere. If we follow the rest of the story here, Hunefer, the dude in white, was a scribe in ancient Egypt and is being led into paradise by Anubis, that fella what has the dog head. The scale here has Hunefer's heart on one side and a feather on the other, and the feather comes from Ma'at, a deity who is most associated with sort of a by-the-books way of life. So if the heart weighs less than Ma'at's feather, Hunefer has led a life most pure and can enter the gates of the afterlife. If the heart weighed more than the feather, then this alligator who is cosplaying as a bear that really loves Jim and the holograms, well, he gets to just straight up eat the heart. Ancient Egypt was metal as fuck, my dude. The idea of a final judgment is something we have seen played out over and over with pretty much every religion on earth. In this painting, The Last Judgment by Michelangelo, God sits in the center of the painting with Mary by his side as he casts his judgments on who gets to enter heaven and who is bound for hell. And while I love this painting, it lacks the same sort of softness as the Book of Hunefer. I know that's a strange thing to say, but the idea of having a set of instructions on what to do now that you're dead, I find to be kind of calming. Death is scary. It's something that we're all going to experience, and just the mere idea of it is incredibly daunting. But the Book of the Dead takes death and makes it feel like you're going on an adventure.
I'm going on an adventure!
to hell.
Navigating the afterlife is such a common plot point in a lot of films and television shows today, and it's so strange to think that this may have originated from an ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. And really, without that, we may not have got something as amazing as this.
Is this what happens when you die?
This is what happens when you die. That is what happens when he dies. And that is what happens when they die. It's all very personal.
Vem är du?
Jag är döden.
Kommer du för att hämta mig?
Jag har redan länge gått vid din sida.
Det vet jag.
Är du beredd?
Min kropp är rädd. Inte jag själv.
If you knew the end was coming and you could ask death for anything, wouldn't some instructions on how to die be a really good idea? We fear the unknown, the dark void that death might actually hold. But what if it doesn't? What if it's an adventure? What if when we reach into the darkness, there's someone there reaching back? I'm not a religious person, and I don't know what comes after this life, but if in my last minutes someone was like, here's a very detailed pamphlet on how to deal with everything. Just take this and don't worry, everything is going to be okay. Then I think I'd have to smile. It's easy to discard trivial things from films such as the Necronomicon as a bunch of writers in a room bouncing ideas off the wall, but some of these had to come from somewhere. Look, I know, like I said earlier, that the Necronomicon is based on Lovecraftian mythologies, and Sam Raimi took that and sort of made it his own. But where did that come from? See, I love this idea that even a 1980s B-horror classic film, you can take and peel back a few layers and connect that to an ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. Sometimes the world is pretty fucking cool. Or, as my main dude Ash would say,
Groovy.